Twitch plays advertisements before I stream now.
Yeah. Gotta make that money.
I know it just makes it difficult to see if I'm up. How do you even know if you're up? How do you know if your stream's working with that with that playing before you can even see yourself? Okay, we're up there. Hello, and welcome to Ask the Right Questions. I'm Jim, and that's Race over there.
So,
How have you been doing, Race?
I'm okay. I enjoyed the Smash Direct today.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, yes. I'm very excited for that game.
Even though the Grinch was lying.
Yeah, that leak kind of made it not as good, I guess. The fake leak, I think, heightened everyone's expectations too much.
The adventure mode looked kind of cool though.
Yeah, it does. It looks like it's giving you a lot to do. So, and the online is very customizable.
Even I have to admit that the adventure mode looked cool.
Even you have to admit that.
I
Yes.
do. Even I had to admit that.
And Sakurai said he doesn't know when he's going to get any sleep. He's trying to close his eyes. He has to open them back up again.
Oh, he's suffering.
He's struggling.
He's a struggling artist.
Like many artists. Yes,
he's a struggling artist, just like our topic today.
Yes. I can't think of an artist who struggles more than Lord Sakurai
Yeah.
with Smash Brothers, having to take the reign of hundreds of other people's characters. Now with these spirits, he has stickers of hundreds of other people's characters too.
Well, the stickers were in Brawl.
Well,
now they're called spirits.
Yeah, but yeah. So, what are the struggles of being an artist?
Well,
we're currently dealing with this as artists ourselves, right?
We have struggled since the day we were born.
Continue. Continue,
Okay.
James.
We've always
with your speech.
With my speech. Well, I could just play that Cream song. But, well, okay, so not struggle since the day we were born. Not with art anyway. That's the rest of my life is a different story. We struggle with being an artist since starting high school. We went to high school to be artists, to learn art. And all they did was teach us Photoshop shortcuts. And the most basic of HTML.
Oh, so we're going to go all the way back to high school.
Why not? We're talking about our struggles, and then we're going to talk about other artists' struggles.
Okay, so we're going to start with our struggles.
Well, I guess so. Since you said tell the story, I'm telling the story.
Okay.
Right.
You start with your story, and then I'll do.
All right. So, well, I mentioned high school. Both of us suffered the same there, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went there to learn how to be an artist, and they didn't do it. They didn't teach us no art, did they?
Well, a little bit in the beginning, but they were changing the program in the middle.
They changed it. They changed it to just learning Photoshop, which learning Photoshop is not learning art.
Well, it was more web. It turned into web design, and
web design was the extra part. You could say that was half the shop in our last 2 years, I think.
Yeah, in our first year we did some art and drawing and design and stuff.
They actually did. Yes, they actually taught us perspective drawing.
Then the second year, computers got more advanced, and we were learning that. We started going to high school in 2006, so it was when the internet was really getting big. Like we had just been through the 90s and the early 2000s, and the internet wasn't that big. So
it was just starting to get there.
Yeah, so we were transitioning. Like YouTube was just really starting then. So
that was MySpace's beginning, really. Too.
So we were kind of it feels like we're a transition generation, you know. Stuck in
Generation
between two worlds.
Generation Z, we were called, I think, right? Or was it X?
I think we're millennials.
Well, now we are.
I think we're in between Gen X and
We
millennials.
we were retconned as millennials. My entire childhood, I was called Generation X.
Maybe we're the tail end of Generation X
I
then.
guess.
I really don't know. Sometimes those lines blur together. Anyways, uh, our school we went to a vocational school where you did trade. You learned to trade for 2 weeks and did academics for 2 weeks. We did that for the first 2 years. Like the first year, you did your
The first year we were only in there for like a month. The first year we were going around to every single shop. In like the
Mhm,
final, for like May into June, we were in our chosen shop, which both of us chose art class, which
mhm.
its name changed every year.
Yeah, it was ad and design. Then it was
Then it was
communication something.
communications and something design. Then it just became commercial arts,
Yes.
which was
Um, the names are arbitrary. It was. I mean,
it was. But the first year, the first time we started, which was only for that final month in our freshman year, they actually did teach us art. We actually were learning perspective drawing,
mhm,
color theory, and
yep.
I was probably because we only had a month in there. That's the two I remember. Then we went into sophomore year, and everything was about computers. We
Everything was going into
the
computer.
first thing we did was take a test on Photoshop shortcuts. The most useful thing, right?
Yeah. Then we went to learned photography.
A little bit, yeah, a
Um,
little bit. Yes, we did learn photography a
we
little
learned
bit.
typography a
That actually
lot
wasn't
more
boring,
than
to
we
be
needed
honest.
to.
Photography, they didn't teach composition though. They taught you like how to take pictures and put them on the computer.
Well, I think our lessons plans were a little inadequate because I learned composition in college better than I learned it in high school.
Yeah, well, they didn't even cover composition.
No, I mean they talked about the rules of thirds and all that, but and cropping, but I mean there's just they were they we I describe it like we were guinea pigs, right? Because
Kind of, yeah, because it was transitioning.
yeah, they were
Well,
transitioning
anyway to the point, eventually we went into web design in the same shop as an extension to it. And I mean, the
and
rest
then
of the time,
they put us into the other shop of screen printing.
oh my God, I hated that class. So the teacher in there was cool. He didn't care what we did, but it was such a waste of time. I went there to learn art.
All public schools getting to be a waste of time.
I actually didn't mind the idea of screen printing, but the problem is they didn't teach us the skills to make a picture to screen print.
It was a jack of all trades, master of none type deal. I feel like we went through.
They weren't teaching you how to make art to apply it to Photoshop and screen printing and web design and all that. They didn't
Mhm.
teach us the prints. They just they they taught you what the tools were. They didn't teach you how to use the tools to create your art.
Yeah, right. I mean, we learned design principles, but
Very little, very little.
very that should have been most of it. And not in I don't think design principles comes naturally to everybody. Um so you can learn how to use the tools and make really bad design and really bad art. Um so that was a struggle. I
So
want to learn animation and Flash. I want to learn traditional animation my whole life, and things were going into Flash, and I didn't like the way Flash looked. And
in a it didn't it didn't behave properly to draw your pictures in it either, to be honest. At that
yeah,
time, it's probably Flash is kind of gone now, but either way,
but Wacom tablets weren't as good then either.
no, they weren't. No, I went there to learn how to be an artist because I didn't really I was going to learn the principles, you know, the basic how to draw, how to paint, all that stuff. Because I only did it off and on in my
Hmm.
younger years. And, you know, getting there, I mean, I hate to say it, kind of, it stifled me a lot. it didn't. If you give up for a long time. I mean, after I got out of high school is when I started doing all the self-taught lessons online,
Hmm.
gesture drawing, color theory, all that stuff. A lot of it came from John Kay's blog, actually.
Hmm. Yeah, that taught me more than anything I learned in high school.
Also, Quick Poses, quickposes.com, which is gesture drawing. And there was others all over the place on the internet. I picked up stuff. The rise of YouTube was coming as we got out of high school too.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of that for help.
And we had some good teachers. We did learn, it was better than going to a regular high school. We did learn some valuable stuff. I probably wouldn't know how to use GIMP or any other
Oh,
Photoshop
yes.
type program
Yeah.
without going there. So we don't want to say it was all a waste,
It wasn't
but
100% waste.
it definitely didn't propel us forward.
It didn't. No. The biggest problem just was they didn't teach you how to use the tools. They showed you the tool and explained it, but they didn't teach you
And
the basic foundations to make use of it.
and I wasn't really around, like I would have rather been around a lot of artists that were much better than me, you know.
That's
It
true.
was very it was very annoying being like everyone's mad at you because you're better at art than them
Well, the
constantly.
majority of the people in our shop, they were only in it because they didn't get into the one they wanted, and this was their second and third choice.
Hmm.
So that did a lot to ruin the mood too.
Yeah, definitely.
There wasn't anybody that really cared besides like you, me, and one other person.
Yeah.
Throughout the years,
So,
people who hated their shop came into ours too. There was new arrivals throughout the years.
right, right. So, I hope that didn't sound egotistical or anything. It's just that, like,
Well, to put it in the context for our audience, Race had drawn his whole life, basically.
mhm.
And so by the time he came there, he was a competent artist. You weren't great. I'm not trying to put you down.
Yeah. No, I
He
know.
wasn't amazing, but he did know basic drawing principles. He was copying cartoons his whole life.
I was
By the time he came
improving
in
all
there,
throughout high school
you were
too.
improving, yeah.
Because that early stuff is not, in freshman year, is
So of
not good.
course, too, a bunch of people who didn't know any better, you were amazing because you could
Yeah.
actually draw.
Yeah, so if I had been around, if I had been like in a legit art class around some really amazing artists, I would have felt inadequate and it would have motivated me to get better.
It's sad.
But I didn't have a lot of,
It's sad. It wasn't really art class. It was more like it was graphic design. It was like making collages out of pre-made stuff. A lot of.
Mhm.
We actually were taught a lot of that. We were taught typography, and we were taught how to make collages basically in
Right.
Photoshop.
And I mean, art principles apply to, there's not a lot of difference between art and design. And a lot of the principles and things that you shouldn't do apply to every tool.
It's true. I
So,
mean, graphic design uses composition
yeah.
heavily.
And
It's the most important thing, actually, I would say, in that.
right. So we would, I mean, yeah, it was more about learning the tools than actually than learning how to like use them effectively, I think.
Exactly. We were going in there to learn the basic principles of drawing and painting,
Hmm.
construction, line of action, color
But
theory, all
it
that.
was just learning a little bit, like tiny bit of different things. So it had variety,
It did, yeah.
but it wasn't enough to make you competent in any of it.
It's true, yeah.
Like even you edited a video, you made a whole documentary about us and our friends.
I did,
And that
yes.
was that was a cool opportunity to do that, right?
It was, yeah, it was. That was my senior project. It was a documentary about our group of friends called the Lunch Bunch.
Yeah. I think it's still on YouTube
It
somewhere.
still is on YouTube. If you search
Yeah.
Lunch Bunch documentary, I guess it'll come up. That was
Yeah.
uploaded before YouTube had tags or anything like that. That was so long ago.
We also have a spicy candy commercial if you
That's
guys
true.
want to look
I
that
did
up too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I guess we could put
well,
those in the
I will.
description.
I'll drop those into the description.
Yeah. So
So,
that was like
so, so,
that's been the only animation I've ever done is in that commercial.
um, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you did a
Yeah.
couple tiny ones here and there too
Yeah. And
throughout
it's
the
just like
years.
squiggly, shaky, squiggly vision.
It worked for that.
It did, yeah.
So, moving past high school
Yeah.
now, I think it's a good point to move past it. So, moving past high school, I got out, and that was when I seriously started diving into learning to be an artist.
Hmm.
Almost right away. Almost right away. I dove right into it. I started learning construction, line of action. I bought the what's the name of that book? That oh the what's the book that with the elephant on it? The Principles of Animation by the Disney guy.
9 Old Men,
No, no. Well, anyway, is
The
it?
Illusion of Life.
I
I
was
think
gonna.
it's called The Illusion of Life.
Well, anyway, is it the book that I'll look it up? No, it's not that way. I looked it up. That's it's the one that John Kay recommends. It's bothering me, so I have to look it up. It's killing me here.
I think I know the one you're
Oh,
talking about.
Preston Blair's book,
Yes,
Advanced
yes.
Animation. That's the one that John Kay recommended. So I bought that. I copied every picture in it as he
Hmm.
recommended, and I followed it. I also went on quickposes.com, did gesture drawing, I did color theory, and of course eventually I started doing custom culture art.
Hmm.
Wonder if I should show it on stream or not, but
Sure.
um, I'll show the one I am most proud of. Open with, is it gonna let me do it? On the wrong browser. But anyway, I did some custom culture, I learned color theory, and I've always struggled with it. Like, anytime I'm staring at a blank canvas, it's just terrifying. It really is. It's terrifying. You always laugh about it. You always think I'm being like overly dramatic, but it really is. It's terrifying to me because I want it. I always struggle to get it just how I want it to be.
Hmm. It's exciting to me, a blank canvas.
Because I just I never it just well I don't know. Both of us struggle with perfectionism in our own way, right?
Right.
There you go. I got it up on Brave now. We always struggle. This is the one thing that came out just how I wanted it in my mind.
Hmm.
That's the one picture that came out just how I wanted it to. Came right out of my head, right onto the page.
Um,
It has life. It has every.
yeah.
And obviously, it
It's
was.
it's weird when I think about I usually don't know how an image is going to come out when I start doing it. Like I have a very vague, fuzzy idea. Um,
Yeah, we were talking about it
so
the other day.
that's probably something you can let go of, where you just like have a fuzzy idea of what it's going to be, and then you just start creating it as you go, and you can add stuff to it, take away, fix lines.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We were talking about it the other day actually about how like everything for me comes. The image in my head is just so detailed. It's so
Mm,
it's so every I know exactly what I want is the crazy part. And I'm
mm,
not able to get that onto the page. But that's one of the few times it actually happened. Which obviously I was inspired by Ed Roth, custom culture scene. That's the first thing I like truly loved. My dad showed me that stuff, cool, big monsters and big scale, big cool monsters and rad cars.
yeah.
You know, it's a very manly thing. So I was instantly attracted to that as a kid. So, um, So I have tons of unfinished projects laying around on my computer because
Hmm.
I never can get past my perfectionism. I was
Yeah.
I was gonna do a space western comic. I've thought about doing stop motion.
Hmm.
Tried all
Yeah,
kinds of
you
stuff.
transition a lot from to different things.
I want to do out everything. I don't know. In more recent times, I am starting up this world building. The place is called Higher Falls, which I guess I'll announce whatever goes up. I'm writing the first story for it right now,
Hmm.
which I've found I'm not scared to write. I'm not scared to write. It comes. I just sit
You're
down
not
and do it.
scared of a blank Word document.
I'm not. No, probably because because like you say, it's fuzzier in my head. I don't
Right.
know. I don't. I mean, as I'm typing the story, it plays like a movie in my head, and it keeps going.
You don't have the stress of creating the image with that too. You're just writing it out.
I guess yeah. I'm going to be doing illustrations for it too. It's going to be a multimedia project.
Hmm.
I've done some paintings for that too, which those are stuck on my iPad.
But like you said, if you were making it all a graphic novel, you would never gotten anywhere at this point, right?
I wouldn't even be on page two,
Right.
and I've been working on it for a couple months now. I did the first draft in third person. I'm now redoing it in first person because the story surprised me and went into a direction where the protagonist is mostly alone the entire time.
So why can't when you sit down to draw something, fix it? I mean, that's kind of weird, right? Like you're changing the story now to first person because it was going in a different place than you thought. Same thing can happen when an image when you're drawing it.
It can. I don't know. It just never happens that way.
Yeah. Oh, and then that's like all artists are a little different, so they all have their own little struggles that they have to deal
Because I
with.
think it's a single image, whereas this plays in my head more like a movie where it keeps going.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well,
the story surprised me. Like the story surprised me. Like there's this one part where the protagonist went and got angry and actually blighted the root cellar of her tribe. She got just out of pure anger out of a moment of it. That surprised me in the story.
hmm. Yeah, your brain is just coming up with new things to add, and it's
I
like,
just typed that out. It surprised me. It happened in the moment too,
right.
while I was following along with it. But I don't. I can't really explain why. I like to say because it's a single image and the image is highly detailed and I know exactly what I want
Hmm.
when I go to do a painting. But it's more of it's a moving target here. It's evolving.
Right, right.
It's going along, changing.
Well, it doesn't cost you nothing to imagine it in your head,
It
too,
doesn't
you know,
either, no.
whereas an image, you need art supplies, you need the time, you need the money, you need
But you know, on the bright side,
effort.
because it's so detailed, I can explain the scene. You know, the character's emotions, everything about the scene that I want
Yeah.
to with the text. But you know, before I started, I also did do some drawing. I drew my characters. I did character designs. I do little
Hmm.
thumbnail paintings of a scene to get it perfectly
Yeah.
in my head. You know, so it all comes together in this
Yeah.
case. It all comes together. It's all useful.
Yeah. It lets you flow better to go from one thing to the next.
So that's the very abridged version of my life as an artist.
All right. My turn.
It's your turn. So what
Ugh.
about you after high school?
Okay.
That's where we left off.
So I was looking to go to Mass Art in Boston. Um, and I want to learn traditional animation. And I really wanted to stay away from computers, but I knew I had to use them at some point, even just for scanning in. But I really just wanted, I was, 10 times more comfortable with pencil and paper than I ever was with a tablet. I still don't really like using tablets at all. Um, but I always struggled finding a college that really specialized. And um, I went to Boston some days to go look at colleges. Then I guess found Infowars, learned about politics, learned about the economy and how it might eventually crash, and then learned about college and that bubble that's building up
Well,
and,
both of
and
us, both
college debt.
both of us got red pilled fast after high
Yeah,
school.
yeah. Um, and so I was very afraid of college debt. I didn't want to be stuck in that. And so the first time I applied to Mass Art, I didn't get in, and that was because I didn't really have. I was just doing stuff on my own. I didn't really have an art portfolio.
I would say for us it probably was partly disappointment from high school too. We were probably just
Yeah,
sick
I
of
mean, I didn't
school.
have like
Was
figure
part of
drawings
it.
or detailed paintings. I just was doing my cartoons. So, um, so then I go to Massasoit College, community college, and I found a really good professor there, art professor, to and I took painting and drawing classes. Um, and I took a bunch of electives that I liked, religion and philosophy classes that I really enjoyed, and I did some of the academic requirements for the associate's degree. And oh god, I hate telling this story because it's so convoluted. But um, so like I was going there to do all the academic classes before I went into mass art, so I could just do the art. And but then after I left um, my second year there, and I did the drawing and painting classes, I was kind of set. I was like, I think I learned everything that I really need to learn as far as art goes. Like I felt very confident. I was drawing a lot because of those classes. And I had a really great professor that was like teaching me a lot of good stuff and encouraging me. So after after those 2 years, I had to do tons more classes just to get it. Like I basically had to go 4 years for a 2 year degree the way I did it because I took all these extra electives that I didn't need in preparation to go to mass art. And I did get into mass art, but I was too afraid of the debt and didn't really want to live there. Um, so I didn't end up going. I ended up staying home, and I'm like, I'm going to try to find a plan.
Well, you also had trouble getting like what do they call that? Scholarships, the fundings, the money,
Hmm.
extra money.
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
trouble getting that.
yeah. I was covering like maybe 20% of what it would cost if I did get some. I was going to go to a Bible college at one point too, and that had art. I mean, I was always looking at schools to go to. It just I gave up at a certain point. Um, I'd like to go to college. I think there's still value in education. Um, obviously, I want to be around artists and be challenged and all that. I just think college is a terrible system right now. I think it's getting kids into crippling debt that's hurting them after they get out, and I don't think it's going to last. So I feel bad that I'm still kind of living at home, but I'm also, glad that I didn't go and don't have the stress of that, massive amount of debt. But anyways, after I got out, I had all these plans to do comics and do this and that, but I would do something for a few months and then get bored of it and then move on to a different idea. Move on to painting, comics. Oh, I'm going to do a comic. Oh, I'm going to do oh no, I'll just do a little web comic. No, I want to do a whole graphic novel. No, I actually want to try animation again. No, maybe I should start writing the story. Oh, actually, I really like music. Maybe I should start doing this. And like, I just went from one thing to another, and I couldn't stick. Like, I couldn't get a project that would make money or like get fully finished. Um, I started. I met some friends of mine who were doing hip hop, and they encouraged me to do it. So I started rapping. I started writing poetry, and I enjoyed that a lot. And for a while, I got obsessed with
Hip
creating
hop.
hip
Oh,
hop. Yeah,
I
doing
remember that. It
yeah.
was all
So
hip hop 24/7.
I was listening to it, writing it. I was trying to find samples, beats. I worked with a friend who was learning how to be a producer, and we were finding samples and making beats, and we ended up making like 4 albums together. And that was a lot of fun. I'm really proud of those albums. I'm really proud of the songs and my lyrics and all that. So I don't have a lot of regrets there. And I still want to do music in the future. I heard that animators and artists, I mean, I got a cross pollination with artists where they like music just as much as they like visual art, and so they want to do both.
Well,
Um,
it's definitely a common thing.
mhm. So yeah, I do want to do hip hop again sometime in the future. That's on my website. You can go download those albums for free. But I did the art too. I did the visual art for all the albums. My albums, and then the ones I did with Lyrical Light. Um, so yeah, those were hard to get finished. Uh, it was a collaboration project, so you're dealing with like kind of clashing personalities, who's doing what, and
Well,
it was a struggle to get the songs perfect. Like I would hear the verse perfectly in my head, and then um I couldn't recite it the way I wanted
well,
to.
this
I
is
couldn't get a
same
perfect
problem
take.
same problem I have with painting. Probably it's not
Yeah,
vague.
I couldn't get the drums just right. I couldn't get the sample just right. There was something wrong with the recording equipment. Just getting a project done, even when it's not professional,
So
like
do you feel part of the reason you might have finished this project is because you also had two people in it with you who you had to get the job done for,
yeah,
and they also were there helping you too in the case of mixing.
hmm yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was probably a really hard person to work with because I was such a perfectionist. Um, but that was a collaboration project. It was like a team effort. So, um, but I did get those done. But every time I try to do my own stuff, I would get too perfectionist and get too bored of one thing, move on to the next. Um, and things just haven't gone anywhere yet. I come up with a new plan every few months of what I could do online, and then I kind of lose faith in it. And that's what's happened to me since I've left high school, since I've left college. You know, I have enthusiasm for something for a while, think it can really work, lose faith in it super quick, get bored. Like, at one point I became like really interested in film and filmmaking, and I was watching a lot of movies and reading a lot about films, learning editing and stuff. It's like,
Yeah, but
why didn't I learn this? Why didn't I learn this earlier? I felt like I was catching up on lost time because if my ultimate dream is film, which is what I want to do in life eventually, I need to learn about filmmaking. And I never thought of that. All my years in high school and
I
college, I
thought your
never,
ultimate dream was to do animation.
well, direct an animated film, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But just
yeah.
you got to learn editing and pacing and you know,
Well, what about live action? Would you do that?
I would like to do live
'Cause
action
I've
someday.
had it too, but it's like there's nobody we know who would act.
Yeah.
Yeah, that requires a lot of people, a lot of like-minded people
Yeah, I mean,
to
you
get
have to get
that
a
done.
script. You have
To
to
get
have
that
a
done.
good script and then get maybe a studio to back it,
Well, even an
but
independent film, I mean, you need to find, I don't know, at least 5 or 6 people who want to, do that.
if you're gonna do it very cheap in the
Yeah,
beginning, yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to find those people.
And that's something that you kind of dedicate your life to, right? So,
Yeah.
like I could do one film, but several films that would take a lifetime to be dedicated to. It's just there's so much you want to do, and time and money is keeping you from it. So that's probably the biggest struggle. The biggest struggle of all artists is to is the fight between your vision, the reason you're doing it, what you want to say, the philosophical statement you want to make about life with the work and the joy of making it, and then the physical restraints, the time, the money, the effort, the fatigue.
You're fighting against
Um,
reality.
yeah,
The reality of the product, of the final product that you
the
made.
the social aspect of it, working with the others, clashing with personalities and um,
So,
creative differences.
so you talk about how you want a creative job. So, I mean, if you were hired by some studio to make somebody else's vision, would you enjoy that?
I don't think I would, but I would be able to get my feet wet, right?
Yeah.
Like I would be able to learn on the job,
Well, it
which
would
is what we
be,
should, which is
which is
what
what we should
society
be
should be
doing.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have apprenticeships.
Instead of being
I should
stuck in
have,
a warehouse.
yeah, there should have been a market for people who want to learn traditional animation, and there should have been people who worked at Disney that were doing apprenticeships with young students like me, like a sensei or something who was like, you
Well,
know,
yeah.
working me really hard to do animation. I could get paid to work on a project while learning animation. Like that's how education should be set up. Is that you learn directly on the job and make money from it, even if it's just a tiny bit. And um, instead of sitting in a class and paying tens of thousands of dollars to sit in classes for 4 years and learn about the job,
Well,
like
yeah. Well,
you should be learning
apprentice
on the job.
apprenticeships should still be a thing.
Yeah, I mean that's such a better system. I feel cheated out of a much better way of doing things. So,
And to give it a little context, here's some Erase's work.
oh.
It's time to start shilling Race. We're shilling it. That's his work at raceforposa.com.
hmm
Has all these great paintings. I always like this one.
Yeah, you can buy all those as prints.
I also have a store too. I got landscapes. Some of that too. This is actually from my world.
I got landscapes. I got
I
cartoons.
do.
I got
Got it all.
what you buying. So
So that's the abridged version of our personal struggle. So what's held us back the most, Race? Perfection. Being a perfectionist.
to some extent, but
Also
I
the
think
fear of putting yourself out there.
yeah, feeling insecure, feeling like
We
nobody's gonna
also
like it. So what's the point of even doing it? It's not gonna make money. Who's gonna buy it? You convince yourself that it's not gonna go anywhere.
I think a big part of it too is also we're just not super social.
We're not, no. Um, and but I think the general thinking of art is that you don't make money from it. And I see a lot of people who are really good artists that will just not even try and they'll just do something else that they don't
It's
like.
true. It's true in all art too, what I've looked at. There's tons of writers. There's lots of musicians, visual artists.
I feel like I'm watching an artist die in front of me. So
Yeah.
it's one of the things I hate most in life.
So I guess one thing we can say is that we still want it.
We
We didn't
still,
give
yeah, we
up.
still want it really bad.
We never totally gave up.
I've never been, and I hate the job I'm at now. as you know.
Yeah, it's a warehouse job.
Yeah, it's making me depressed just being there. It's just if I'm not doing something creative, I'm gonna go crazy, you know. And doing a boring manual labor job is really just it's not for me.
Well, it's sucked the energy out of you to where you've had trouble
It
creating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my biggest problem now is that it's like it stops my creative flow. I do it for like 3 days. It's just part time, but even part time, it'll just interrupt any flow that I would be in. And then by the time I'm done, I don't want to create anything. I just want to decompress. I want to let my brain do something else.
Would you do you have your latest work next to you? You actually did make something last week.
Yeah, because
Is
we're
there,
getting paid for
so
it.
there we go, getting paid for art. It's a
Yeah,
big deal.
it is.
It's a big deal. So, what was I going to say next? So in my case, in my job, I don't completely hate it. I mean, I was thrust into it right after high school because my mom got sick with cancer and couldn't do it anymore. So I had to jump into the family business, which is kitchen cabinet design work. I don't completely hate it, but I can't say I enjoy it at all. It takes up a lot of time, of course.
Yep. So,
So, what was your latest work race? It was over there, wasn't it? On your desk.
oh,
Is
this
it there? You're going to hold it up. It's the first thing you've made in quite a while, right? Seeing it.
it's for a painting company. That's just the rough drawing of it. I did a more finished version, but
So,
no, I mean, I mean, I would be lying if if said, you know, some of it's laziness, some of it's procrastination, uh, some of it's just depression and anxiety kind of taking over and making you not want to do it. Um, just you have so much stress already and stress that you're putting on yourself for not even creating, and then the stress of creating on top of that, it's it feels like it's crushing me a bit. So that stops me a lot. Um, I have a plan to eventually quit soon and like do this show and other shows um, with you, and
shortly
then
after Christmas.
yeah, and then do a live stream where I'm just constantly I'm gonna force myself to just draw, paint, you know, and then sell that stuff online and just like what you call it, be an internet beggar,
Yeah,
just
e-beggar.
begging
Was it
people for money, e-beggar.
Well, yeah,
Just like
those are
hoping that
e-beggars.
people get something out of it and want to donate, you know, so that I can keep doing it full time. Like that's the ultimate dream. Like I just want to be creative full time, you know, and I want opportunities to open up where I can do music again and eventually slowly work on some projects, some bigger projects, a graphic novel, um, and an animated movie.
I'm going to do an
That would
animated
be
movie
my main
race.
goal in life. Well, that's like, you know,
Yeah.
way off, but that's the eventual, that would be the eventual dream, you know, so.
So did you want to, I guess that's where, if we've covered our life stories. You were to go into
Yeah.
somehow some other artist
Oh,
struggling
yeah.
throughout
Well,
history.
this is not unique, right? I mean,
No, it's not unique.
the art is,
Well, there's always the word the tortured artist.
yeah, a piece of art is a luxury item. It's art for art's sake, for sometimes just for entertainment.
You,
Companies obviously make it to make they make a movie, they make a game to make money, obviously. But part of it is they're there to support artists and make their vision happen. And so there's always a tug of war between the business side of it and just the artist wanting to see it come to life. Um, and so I lost my train of thought.
Well, it's not made for any other purpose than to entertain and
Yeah,
look
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and be beautiful or say
Right.
something.
So people got to have disposable income to want to give money to you and your art and support you. You're not making food, you're not providing a service that, the warehouse job, it's not like driving somewhere,
Yeah.
it's not like
No,
necessities,
it's not.
right?
It's not.
It's always a want.
It's not needed.
Um, Now life would be pretty boring without artists. It'd be pretty uninspiring.
Hey, it's some of the
I think
first things. Some of the first things humans did. So it's a
yeah,
it's
art
a built-in desire.
yes, a really good story can be very motivating. It can motivate someone to start a business that helps a lot of people. There's the economic value of art is you can't know it. You can't know if an artist didn't do that, this would have happened. You can't quantify it. So even when you're gonna take on a commission, like you don't know how much time you're gonna spend on that. I don't know how much time I'm gonna spend perfecting a cartoon for somebody, and they keep sending it back with new requests. That's gonna put up the cost. But what if you already agreed on a price? So then you're taking the same amount of money, but you're doing more work. So it's hard to even quantify how much time you'll spend. You know, it's not like being paid by the hour, and you're going to get this amount of work done in that amount of time, depending on how fast you whatever. It,
It's a struggle.
it's un
It's the struggle.
you can't easily define the parameters, you know,
In the worth of
um,
art.
yeah, to make it into like a business venture. So
And like I've said, the internet gives you more opportunities than ever, but it also makes it maybe even harder to get noticed in a way because there's so much out there. There's so
yeah,
much out there
so
to look at.
it's like the good thing is everybody has an opportunity. The bad thing is everybody has an opportunity
Yeah.
because it's just oversaturated, and you're just one artist in a sea of artists. Um, and then you probably gotta, too, you gotta, depending on how well you want to live, you gotta find multiple streams of income. So you gotta figure out different ways to make money off your art and try to manage that all and juggle it. And a lot of artists don't want to hate the business side of it like me. I don't want to be any part of it for the most part.
No,
I just want to be like, oh, you want to buy it? Okay, here.
I don't either.
I just don't even want to. I just want to create. So that artists on the internet, they're kind of have to be their own salesman, and it doesn't come naturally to a lot of artists. So that's another huge struggle. Um,
So a few so a few examples of artists
Examples?
struggling. Of artists struggling. We have Miyazaki,
Mm,
the famous man Hayao Miyazaki.
Well, you can't say that Miyazaki struggled to get things completed
No, he
because
didn't. No,
he's he's made 13 films that are all his own, pretty much.
but like
And
you talk about with money, he he has movies take up to 5 years and doesn't make his money back.
yeah, so the
That goes into the
last
money
film,
side.
the Wind Rises, did incredibly well in the box office, but it did not make its money back.
It partly
Um,
did incredibly well because of the hype of his last one.
yeah, there's no other person in animation or even directing like Miyazaki. When you have 13 films that are all your own stories, that's as successful as an artist can get. So he's incredibly successful in getting it done. But he's struggled a lot. He's a very cynical old man.
He's a perfectionist. Looks like we lost race. Looks like we lost race. We'll try and get him back. Let's see if we can get him back. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Are we still
He's
streaming?
back. I was still streaming, yeah.
Okay. First technical difficulties after 10 shows. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So we left off on Miyazaki. He was struggled to get his money back.
We're struggling artists right now.
We are.
We're struggling with technology.
We're struggling with our souls, Race. Our souls
Yes.
cry out.
You're sounding like a robot to me now.
So are you. Well, we'll wrap it up.
What's that?
We'll finish this up.
Call again and then...
Well, we could try again.
Okay.
I see pure darkness. On Race's camera. Wait, he's starting to come in.
Oh man.
You need to go kick everybody off the internet in your house. So, well, we talked about Miyazaki. So, Richard Williams losing his work of 3 decades to a studio.
Okay, we back up.
You're back up, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yes. So Ghibli has always struggled kind of financially. Their movies make a lot of their money back, but they just take their endeavors that are not really, like they're extremely costly. Hasn't made its money back, right?
Yes.
Maybe it has eventually after all these years, but that was $1 billion, adjusting for inflation back then in Japan, and there's no way it was going to make its money back. They just did it. A lot of investors believe in it. Richard Williams made The Thief and the Cobbler for 3 decades.
Oh, somebody in the chat is asking where your smoke's coming from.
This is the oil diffuser.
Show it off. There it is. Oh.
Yeah.
Take a whiff.
Okay. So
he's toking it up.
Yep. So Richard Williams worked on Thief and the Cobbler for 3 decades. Lost it to a studio he was trying to finish it, trying to get the funding to finish it. It was Miramax, Harvey Weinstein at the time, and so they took his movie, chopped it up, added scenes to it, made not as good animation, added story to it, and you could say, well, Richard Williams was more focused on it. He was obsessively perfectionist about the animation. And he didn't really create that much of a movie. But that's still like he couldn't talk about it for years after that. It's online, unfinished. People are trying to make an HD remaster of it and all that. But so that I can't even imagine working on something for 30 years and then losing it.
You know, we actually have some viewers, and Race has technical problems.
um,
So his Richard Williams fans try to cobble together his movie Thief and the Cobbler.
that robot voice makes me dramatic. Yeah, yeah, James, your voice is a robot.
Well, yeah, to you.
He's turning into a train wreck.
Well, I'm the one doing the streaming, so my voice shouldn't be a robot.
Maybe I'm a robot. I don't know. I guess we'll just wrap it up then.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Orson Welles, Citizen Kane is the only movie I had final cut of. He's been a rebel to the studio system for years.
yeah, Citizen Kane. He actually got to do the editing and decided how to cut the movie together. I know he had a lot of trouble with almost every other movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also cool too when he was making Citizen Kane, he said that he goes, I didn't know I was doing things that the studios weren't doing. I wasn't part of the studio system, so I wasn't regurgitating all their techniques. Like I just didn't know that I didn't know. You created this film that's considered one of the greatest of all time because of how innovative it was.
He had a lot of trouble with Touch of Evil. It wasn't anything like he imagined.
Yeah,
and then Criterion got his notes and put it back together
in
the way he imagined.
He never finished too. David Cronenberg, inspired him, and he got everybody. Well, I think he got himself and the lead actor to do it for free. At least most people on the crew to do it for free, because there just wasn't getting funding from the studio, but he wanted to finish the film. They all wanted to, and he's pretty bitter about not being get funding for his films, but they're also very radical movies. So John Carpenter is a little bit bitter about it too. Movies too. The timing has to work out too, because the thing is considered a masterpiece, but at the time, people hated it. Right? I mean, it was a very dark movie, so the critics hated it. Now it's considered this masterpiece. So you can do something, and then 20 years later, everyone loves it. But at the time, they gave you all these bad feelings that your work was horrible. So sometimes you can be ahead of your time as an artist and not get recognized in the moment and not get financial support.
Have you tried pausing the stream to fix your connection?
Pausing the stream itself?
Yeah. On Twitch. Or do you have it running there?
Well, I just refreshed it.
No, I mean, have you tried pausing it? So it's not loading.
Okay, I paused it.
Yeah, your voice is sounding better already.
Oh, all right.
It's sounding somewhat better.
Well, maybe we can come up with better. We can come up with more examples of artists, and then redo this whole thing.
Yeah. We'll cut it off here since you're having technical problems.
Well, you're sounding so I'm like struggling to understand you.
Right. So sorry to the audience about the problems.
Being an artist, it's perfect.
We're struggling.
It worked perfectly. We're trying to do the show. The technology and the internet just doesn't work for us.
So we stream on every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us.
Thank you. Bye.